You come into the John Deere booth where we're at right now, and you might be able to talk to like the president. He might be here. Or you talk to the guy that actually designed the mower, and then you talk to him. So if you're doing a mulch job, for example, what does that mulch actually cost you? And then what are you marking it up to make profit off the mulch itself? You got to have that built in with your overhead, your equipment recovery. For you as the business owner, you have to understand all of the expenses that you incur just to open the doors every morning. So that's why it's so important to, quote unquote, know your numbers, which is crazy because they think that their paycheck is just the profit. And that's not true, because if you're operating your business like that, where you're like, well, whatever's left over is mine, it shouldn't be that way. It's like, yeah, whatever's left over is yours, but you should also be calculating, I need to make $20 an hour because I need to pay myself to take care of my household.
When you're young in business, get into the habit of paying yourself as the owner of the company. I just bought a new F-150 cash. I was like, you know what? I want an F-150. I put it on my vision board. I had savings. I saved. I talked to Megan and Joey, my bookkeepers. They looked at all the ratios and margins, and they said, go for it. And I walked in there. I was a shrewd negotiator. I told the guy, I was like, I'll give you this amount. He was like, deal. So I went to the bank. I got the cashier's check. I walked in. And I said, here's the money. Where's, give me the keys. And I was out there like that. They didn't know what to do with me. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the John Deere booth here at the Equip Expo. My special guest today, from Chicago, Illinois, John Pajak.
Hey, Paul, how you doing, man?
Close enough.
It's close enough. I'm on the Indiana side, but Chicago is easiest to find.
You can see the skyline from the right angle.
Yeah, you can see the whole skyline of Chicago. We're just south of the Great Lake, Michigan, only 2 minutes away from the border of Illinois, but we're still Hoosiers, so...
Gotcha. Well, how's your Equip Expo going, man?
It's fantastic. It's been amazing, just all the meetups and events and seeing everybody. It's kind of like every year we get to do a reunion in some sense, where you see people that you met over the years, and then you could just come back together and reignite old friendships and everything. So it's been fantastic.
Yeah, and you were the man of the people at the morning show out fielding the Q&As. How did you think the morning show went?
Oh man, every year it just keeps getting better and better. Not only is the turnout better, I think, but it's also the production value. Because everybody that's on stage, you guys are always very good. There's always excellence in broadcasting there. But the fact that Equip sees the importance of our community and keeps building it, and they keep adding, like this year we had lights. Did you see Robert?
Yeah.
The tech guys, there's Robert, Maurice, and Jesse. They're all behind the scenes, and they're making sure all our audio quality is amazing. The lights, they added the lights this year, so we had stuff flashing. We have the different TV screens because the crowd's so big. In order to see everybody, they have to have screens off to the left and right so that everybody feels comfortable. They're not all like, what's going on? So it feels very immersive now, and it's just getting better and better.
If you do something, do it well. The morning show is just fantastic. The content turned out amazing.
Yeah, Evan Cox. I mean, you got to throw a lot of credit to him because he's been helping that show particularly just grow and be better every single year. So a lot of people, a lot of hands in the pot to make a light work of a big production like that.
Totally. What's your plan for the rest of the Equip?
Well, we for today, we've had a lot of different things. I'm not going to go back in the past, but here's what what I'm looking forward to is tonight, the rally.
Yeah.
And it's amazing that we were able to get it at the Yum Center this year for our venue. Every year, that's always kind of like the highlight for me because, with Naylor Taliaferro, we're all friends. We help him out, but it allows us as a community to get together, see each other, spend some time, just have a great event. And this year being at the Yum Center, there's no conflict of, well, I want to go see the headlining concert. Like last year, they had Trace Adkins, but that was at 4th Street Live. So we had some people peeling out because I'm like, yeah, I wanted to go too. But this year they kind of combined that. They kind of stopped that from happening by taking the venue, our venue, with the rally, and putting that in the same place where the Third Eye Blind concert's going on tonight. So it's going to be an amazing place. Last night, Naylor and I we went to dinner and we had to walk through the Yum Center, and we were kind of checking out. We're looking at the entrance. We got our own special entrance to go in, and it's just going to be fantastic. So really looking forward to that.
You've been coming to the show for so many years, John. What's been your most memorable moments?
There's been so many, really, I know that sounds kind of cliche, but there's been so many moments. It's hard to kind of pinpoint some of them, but like I said, a lot of it is the community meeting people, because most of us, that's especially when I started coming, we would kind of rally around the social media aspect of it. Like Facebook at the time was the way to find out about things. And we would talk about things in Facebook groups. And it's we're going to, before Road to Equip and all these other specialized groups, we would just go in there and be talking about our businesses. And it's hey, what's the next big thing that we're doing? We're going to, the Equip Expo. It used to be called something else, but it's still the same heart is still here. And actually, I think things have just gotten bigger and bigger over time. And just being able to meet with those people, meet them face to face. It's not just I see the guy typing. And no, it's hey, we actually have real conversations. We have the real people. This is their business. Oh, hey, you know what? You're doing the same thing I'm doing. How about, do you have any secrets? What's your secret sauce? What's the big things that helped you be successful? And it feels like when you come to an event like this, people, it's not that they let their guard down, but because they're tangible. It's real people. I could reach out and touch you. We're more willing to share. Exactly. We're more willing to share our experiences and how we run our businesses. When you talk to people either back home and there's no, I don't want to say not community, but you're meeting somebody cold. There's nothing to help break the ice on that. It's I don't walk up to a guy at the gas pump that has another company and go, hey man, what are you using? What chemicals you throwing down or whatever? It's they're just nah, I ain't talking to you.
Right.
But, besides the, being able to actually meet the people that are in our community, being able to interact with, the manufacturers, the builders of the equipment that we all use every day. It's a unique experience because, you could walk up to any one of these booths. You could come into the John Deere booth where we're at right now, and you might be able to talk to the president. He might be here. Or you talk to the guy that actually designed the mower, and then you talk to him. This has happened in the past. It's it'd be really, it's hey, how's it going? How do you like our machine? Oh, I love this thing. It'd be really nice is if maybe you move this lever just a little bit. And the great thing is, it's yeah, obviously that's not just something that could happen very quickly, but when enough people interact with the actual end user, most companies that are smart, they'll react to what their consumer needs. And this is a great place to be it'd be nice maybe if you had a cup holder on this thing. I mean, something silly. I'm just putting that out. But, there's been innovations that have been here where it's transformed a Gen 1 machine into the Gen 2 machine. And I'm saying John Deere, the different decks and things, it's because they listen to their people, and that's why they have quality equipment.
Totally. Switching gears a little bit, Profits with Paycheck's really helping a lot of people. You personally, we did a 4-hour call years ago that ultimately led me to realize I need to raise my prices because I wasn't hitting the financial goals that, it was a disaster back in the day. And until you helped me, you're a nerd with spreadsheets. And I can tell you now on the other end of that, of knowing my numbers and having profit and having margin and having a whole new set of problems. When you make a bunch of money, it's we had a guy ask a question today. He's what do I do with all this money, for investing and things of that nature? And so guys are in this industry crushing it.
Yeah.
Earning a bunch of money. And then there's other guys that are struggling just because there's disorganization. It's not that there's a lack of customers unless you're really in a rural area. But if you live, where I live in Atlanta or Dallas or Florida, come on, somebody, there's money to be made. But let's dive deeper into the numbers side of this business, John.
Sure. Yeah. The Profits of Pajak is the podcast. And then the program that you mentioned, it was before it even had a name, but it's the Budgets, Break Evens, and Bottom Lines workshop. And that, again, that really helps people generically know their numbers, but it really boils down to there's so many business owners that just don't understand even things like their payroll. Okay, if you pay somebody $15 an hour, insert the number, it doesn't matter, but arbitrary number of $15, when you're budgeting and trying to calculate what your price per hour is going to be, you're not going $15 an hour, because you got to include the labor burden, which is all the FICA taxes, your Social Security, your Medicaid, all those things, your state unemployment, and then if you also, like there's the basic stuff where that $15 now becomes, say, $18, depending on where you live. It varies state to state. I'm not going to get too deep on it. But also, let's just say you have fringe benefits where you have health insurance, you offer dental, or you have a retirement plan, or there's some other benefit that you offer to your guys. Well, that needs to be baked into their price, like their cost per hour. So that $15 an hour guy, after taxes and all these other things, the contributions that the business must make tax-wise, you also, if you offer benefits, that has to be tapped in there too. So that $15 an hour guy might end up being $27 an hour, and your worker would see that and he's like, dude, I don't make $27 an hour. It's like, I understand that. Your take-home pay is based off of that $15 an hour. All the benefits that we apply for you to make this a great working place to work at, that is, baked into that. So yeah, it might cost $27 when we bill out. That's how we would bill that out. Obviously, you're not just billing out for labor. You have to remember all your overhead costs, direct job costing. So if you're doing a mulch job, for example, what does that mulch actually cost you? And then what are you marking it up to make profit off the mulch itself? You got to have that built in with your overhead, your equipment recovery. Some guys still do mulch jobs just with a wheelbarrow and a shovel or a rake or whatever. That's pitchfork. It's totally, that's totally fine. You don't have to have, like, say, a mulch mate or a big piece of equipment or a mulch blower. Those are amazing pieces of equipment. But for you as the business owner, you have to understand all of the expenses that you incur just to open the doors every morning. So that's why it's so important to, quote unquote, know your numbers. Because if you don't, it's so easy to be super busy all the time. And then you're working and you're like waiting for the cash flow to come in. And then when it comes in and then you pay your bills and everything, you're like, what is going on? I have no money left. And one of the fundamental mistakes is not understanding what you really need to be charging for each individual service that you have.
What gets overlooked, and this is completely confidential, so we're not going to share names and business names and everything like that, but John's worked with a lot of lawn care and landscaping business owners, and of course we're not going to shout out their names or anything like that, but keeping it anonymous, what are the areas you see overlooked when you are going with a fine comb, scrubbing through people's numbers? What's being overlooked and where they're like, oh, I didn't realize I was spending so much money on that?
I'll tell you the number one thing, and it should be like not the fine-tuned comb, it should just smack them right in the face, is the owners aren't paying themselves, which is crazy because they think that their paycheck is just the profit. And that's not true, because if you're operating your business like that, where you're like, well, whatever's left over is mine, it shouldn't be that way. It's like, yeah, whatever's left over is yours, but you should also be calculating, I need to make $20 an hour because I need to pay myself to take care of my household. Whatever it comes out to be. Like, let's just say, you need $800 a week. Well, that equates to $20 an hour at 40-hour work week if you follow that mentality. That's what you're taking home to pay for your personal life. We're not talking about business stuff. On top of it, so if you're running your business, you're not actually paying yourself a wage or paying yourself like a laborer does. You're really hamstringing yourself, because what happens when you go out of try to take yourself out of that position? Well, now you're going to start realizing, like, well, I got to pay this guy $20 an hour.
Right.
And you're not prepared for it. Now you're like trying to call Miss Herfnerbler and be like, hey, we're going to have to raise prices. And, we're going to go to Paul Jamison's, the Green Industry podcast and download the price increase letter.
There you go. Dynamite dropping, John.
I'm just saying, it's like, you could use that tactfully instead of having to use it as like an emergency fire extinguisher. Because that's what a lot of guys do. They wait until something blows up or starts on fire. And instead of preparing for that fire, they're like scrambling and just like throwing sand on it or whatever. They don't have a fire extinguisher in their toolbox, But besides the owners that are the owner operators not paying themselves like they should, another thing that like when I start going through the fine tooth comb is excessive. They're like, oh, I'm going to buy this and put it on my business account. It's like, well, what is this? That's my for my daughter's birthday. I'm going to write off all the birthday cards and all that stuff, like for the invitation for the party. It's like, well, that's not a business party. If it was a business party, you could write that off. But if it's your personal party, that's a kind of a no-no. More than likely, you're not going to get caught by it. But then at the same time, you start to look at it, and it's like you're incurring additional expenses that don't need to be there. It might be, you're looking at this as a short game. But like, look at some of our friends that are in this industry. Like, take Corey Ballard for example. When he sold his business, they went back and they looked at all this. They're like, "What's this expense? What was this vehicle? Oh, that's a personal vehicle. We bought that
motorcycle.
Yeah, motorcycle or whatever." It's like, no. You can't do that. That's not part of it. That doesn't add value to the business. Like, so if you're looking to sell it in the long run, it's like, guys don't think about this. It's like, I'm not just going to do that. That's fine. But I really believe in having a truly streamlined business because, one, it's simple. Instead of when you're looking at your numbers, you want to keep it as simple as possible. If you have additional things that you're adding in, all it does is complicate the process. And then you're going to start going, why does my bottom line look so weak? Why is my bottom line not black? It's red. The bottom line dropped through, and we're in the basement right now. We spent more money than we earned. There's something wrong here. There's so many different ways we could take this because, like you said, I really have spent a lot of time with small businesses and medium-sized businesses that are doing just about $1 million in total revenue. And it's funny, sometimes the guys that are doing like, they're cresting that $1 million mark. Mm-hmm. They still have the same problems that the guys that are, doing like 100K. And they just don't have the systems in place to actually manage their money properly.
Yeah. And what's most interesting observation that I have is I've asked that question to John, and I've also asked it to my bookkeepers, Megan and Joey, who have over 40 customers who have lawn care and landscaping businesses. I asked them the exact same question. They had the exact same answer. Mm-hmm. They said guys aren't paying themselves. So for easy math, let's say you have a $200,000 revenue business, and then they're like, oh, but I only spent $100,000, so I'm 50%.
Yeah.
Profit margin, I got 100% left over. Like, no, if you're paying yourself $75,000, or pardon me, $75,000, then there's really only $25,000 left over. And we haven't even gotten into taxes and all that. So you really do, from day one, need to set aside your salary. And there's different legalities if you're a sole proprietor or LLC, but just getting into the habit that I'm paying Paul Jamison every month. And he's a good worker, but he deserves good pay. But that's calculated into the budget.
Right, because like you said, the easy math, right? If you were just imagine yourself when you're doing this, be like an existentially, like remove yourself from the business, take yourself completely out. Who are you going to find that's going to work for free? That's like, you'll get paid maybe if there's money left over. Good luck trying to find that guy, you know? So it's like you have to be honest, because if you aren't, like, talking about this, not paying yourself, if you're not doing that, you're not being honest. If you're not being honest with yourself, that's when the pitfalls happen. And that's when you will find that you are really, like you said, it's actually $175,000 to make the $200,000 with the $25,000 with profit. like you said, that doesn't even include the taxes. Now, don't get me wrong. The 25,000 is going to be the one that gets taxed. It's not the whole 200K, but you know, some guys get confused on that too, because they're like, well, I made 100K, or, you know, like you said before, where they weren't paying themselves. I'm reporting 200K earned, and I took, you know, it cost 100K to do it. So I got this 100,000. It's like, you're really screwing yourself now when you come to taxes, because now if you're just taking all the profit and not just writing it up as a actual labor draw, now you're going to get taxed on that 100K, and that's a bigger bill. And you know, Uncle Sam's going to love you more for it.
Yeah, and this isn't legal advice. We have so many different, you know, there's professionals out there that will iron all of this out. My point is, when you're young in business, get into the habit of paying yourself as the owner of the company. And the other thing is, if John, if you're like, I want to replace myself, well, what do you actually do? Most owners do a lot.
Yeah.
So you'd have to pay a lot if someone truly filled in for what you're doing. Also, you know, I was just talking, John, to my buddy. He's making about $1,000 a month. He's in a completely different industry. He's a sheriff, but he has a side hustle, and he's his first time being an entrepreneur, you know, being a business. So he's asking me, he's like, man, what do I do about taxes, and what do I do about all this stuff? I said, go down to the credit union or local bank. I said, open you up a checking account.
Yes.
Now he's only making $12,000 a year, you know, if it keeps going the way it is, but $1,000 a month. I said, when you get that money from your side hustle, it's not a lawn care business, it's something else, but the principle is the same. I said, take that $1,000 you make, put it in that account. If you have any expenses for that business, you know, pay for it out of that account, but don't go to the grocery store and buy something out of the account. Don't buy nothing. And then at the end of the year, you're going to have a perfect profit and loss statement, because you're going to have your $12,000 come in, and then any expenses related to that is going to come out. It's going to be clean. And he obviously lives off of his sheriff's salary, but it's just like, if you can start day one keeping the organization, it's going to help you really know the true health of your numbers.
Yeah, and that's also called the corporate veil. And what that is, it's keeping your personal life personal, your business life business, and you don't want to be cross-contaminating. So when you first start out, you definitely should have a separate checking account, preferably under an LLC or something like that, because if you're not doing that, people think it's really complicated to do. Like Paul said, I'm not a CPA, I'm not an attorney, and there's people that are smarter than me that know more than that on how to do it. But you know, I just know from experience that if you're going to start even a side hustle, it's best to just go ahead, start up an LLC. It doesn't take much. You might have to pay a fee with the secretary of the state of your state to get your business registered. And it could just be like ABC LLC, whatever it is, you know, that allows you to get that tax ID number. It doesn't matter if he's making $1,000 a month or if he's making $100,000 a month. It just makes it easier, like you're saying, to keep your finances clean. Because like what I said before, we call it the corporate veil. When you start to, this is almost opening you up to liability. When you start crossing over personal and business funds, it's called piercing the corporate veil. And then it could possibly open you up to, if somebody sues your business, they could actually go after your personal assets as well. Because if you don't keep clean numbers, then whatever. But, you know, you make a great point. You know, just opening up that checking account and just operating out of that for the business expenses, because that's really how we should be doing business in general. I could go a deeper level with that, where instead of just having one business account, like us, we have multiple.
So do I.
We have like 12 different checking accounts, and they're itemized for each different thing. Like we have ones for taxes and
yeah, we can dive into that, because I've read Mike Michalowicz's book, Profit First. He suggests 5, which would be your income. So all the money, any money that comes in, whether it's cash, check, Venmo, PayPal, Wise, whatever your thing is, it goes into that account, income. Then you have a second account. This is Mike Michalowicz's plan. You have one for your operating expense. You have one for your profit. You have a fourth account for your owner's pay, and then you have your tax account. Mm-hmm. And what he does is all the money goes in, and then it gets dispersed twice a month into those accounts. I have a hybrid of that. I have 3 accounts. So I have my income account. All my money goes into that one. I immediately take a percentage that my professionals know my business, say, take this percentage of your revenue, which I don't want to share that number because it's going to be different for everyone. Yeah. And I know my numbers, and I know what that number is. So I'll take that percent. Let's say a $10,000 job gets done. Then I take that percentage and I put it in the tax account immediately. Mm-hmm. So when quarterly taxes are due, I'm ready to rock and roll. So you have tax account for me, operating expense, and then income. So I do a hybrid of Mike McCallow's. But you do 12, John.
Yeah.
What in the world?
Well, because see, I was certified, Dave Ramsey certified financial coach, and Dave Ramsey always has the envelope system.
Yep.
When you look at Mike McCallow's and you see the similarities between that, it's just kind of like a modern day envelope system, right? So the thing is, like what you said, Paul, if you're going to use the bank accounts, instead of stuffing cash away under, in envelopes and putting it away with business, it's a little easier to have it mobile, very fluid. I still have cash accounts, but that's, and I don't mean like I get paid cash and I hide it. I don't. Everything gets reported. Even when I get cash, it gets reported into our P&L and our balance sheets. But using that same methodology of like the profit first structure, that income, my goal is like everything comes in, and then once a week, I make that go from whatever the balance is, and I make it 0. Mm-hmm. Because, the first thing we do right off the tip is we have sales tax that we have to pay. That goes in its own account. We have 2 separate accounts for taxes. One's for sales tax for Indiana, and the other one's federal tax. So I have 2 tax accounts. That keeps it clean so that I know which is which. Again, owner's pay. You got your equipment replacement. That's one big one that we have. We also have payroll, our marketing budget. I have a specific account just for marketing. Because we're a fertilization weed control company, I have one just for supplies. So it's like at a glance, like we have the several other ones that are slipping my mind right now. But like the big goal, like I said, for the money management, our cash flow is amazing because we're getting paid. Like I bill out daily. So we're getting a high churn of money. It's basically like on a Monday is basically the only day that like money's not coming in. So what we end up doing is like I'll have that money in there, and on a Monday I will take that income account and zero it out completely and put it into those other funds. That way, at a glance, the whole reason behind this, it's just a nice little organizational way, because like when I log into my bank account, I could at a glance I could see all the balances on one page, and I could go, yeah, we're good for payroll. We're good for. I'm like, oh, you know what? It looks like maybe we need, we have a piece of equipment that we're going to be purchasing. Are we on track? At the rate that we're going? Are we putting enough money away to buy that, or do we have the money for it? Yeah, it's like it's just a great way to at a glance know where your business really stands, because if you have it just in one account. This has happened so many times. Oh, man. Where it's like, and we're just talking business. Everything goes into one account, and you got, say, $25,000 in that account, right? And you're like, I got $25K sitting here. I'm good, And then it's like, all right, well, I got to pay payroll. All right, I got to pay the rent. Oh, I got to pay the insurance. I got to pay this, that, and the other. And then by the time you're like, oh man, I need $5K. I'm $5K in the hole. I don't have this $5,000 to do whatever it is. And it's like, you're short. It's like, how did we go from $25,000 in the bank to now we're absolutely broke? Like I said, this whole system, doing it that way, it's just a quick way to really see where your money's at. And it's a more accurate way, because the worst thing in the world, and I know you know this, is you pay everything else, and then you realize you owe the tax man, and the tax man does not wait.
Their interest, their penalties are extravagant. You do not want to get behind, and we have people listening in different countries, and so in the United States, our federal taxes we call them Uncle Sam. It's not. We don't really have an Uncle Sam, the IRS, but their penalties, if you get behind, Like, and I'm throwing out fictitious numbers, but like say you get behind $5,000, you don't owe them $5,000 because they're going to charge you penalties. Yeah. Then they're going to charge you interest. And then the next, I don't know how the system works, but that $5,000 is going to turn into $8,000 or $9,000 like that.
It can.
If you let it go by. So that is, you have got to be on top of that. And then there's just the moral and the legality things, need to pay the tax.
Yeah, it's terrible because like you said, it's really not the interest that gets you, it's the penalty fees. Mm-hmm. Because they're savage about it.
And they do have things like a first-time abatement. If you are behind, you could. There's possible ways, but the goal isn't to get out of that mess. The goal is to avoid it by being proactive and being intentional to charge our customers enough so that we can set the money into a tax account and make sure Uncle Sam's paid on time. Yes. To set the money on the owner's pay to pay the salary for John Pajak and Paul Jamison and fill in your name, to set the money aside to get the nice piece of equipment. I prefer cash. So, hey, I want to get I just bought a new F-150 cash. I was like, you know what? I want an F-150. I put it on my vision board. I had savings. I saved. I talked to Megan and Joey, my bookkeepers. They looked at all the ratios and margins and they said, go for it. And I walked in there. I was a shrewd negotiator, but I told the guy, I was like, I'll give you this amount. And he was like, deal. So I went to the bank. I got the cashier's check. I walked in and I said, here's the money. Where's, give me the keys. And I was out there like that. They didn't know what to do with me. They really didn't.
Nice.
He didn't know because
you got to come with me the next time I buy a truck because it always turns into like a 7-hour thing.
Oh, I'm talking a few minutes. I walked in. I was like, I'm going to send you my driver's license and my insurance ahead of time. I'd like to come with the check and you give me the keys. And it was boom, boom.
That's awesome. But
thank you.
Getting back to that point of like not owing money to the taxes and stuff, just being organized like that. Yeah. That is an essential key because if your money's cluttered and it's all over the place and it's jumbled and you complicate it, you don't keep it simple, it causes more problems for you. Mm-hmm. Because, say you don't even cash checks. Like you just keep stockpiling them or whatever. People are going to get mad at you for not doing that. And then they're going to be like, yeah, I'm canceling that check. And then you're like, Miss Herfnerbler, I tried cashing your check and it didn't go through. Well, I gave it to you 2 weeks ago and you didn't cash it. So I thought it got lost. So I canceled it. It's like, okay. But anyway, just keep everything simple, keep it streamlined, and you'll find that it makes your life easier beyond knowing your numbers and knowing what to charge. It's also the cash flow, not only your cash flow, but your cash management it's truly essential to have those skills as a business owner.
Yeah, and I think we're talking about having the business finance organized, but you also help with, personal. Like I'm just assuming that you have a household budget and you know exactly what you're spending on your rent or mortgage, on your food, on your utilities, and like you already know, hey, it costs me fill in the blank to run my household each month, and we both know there's no regular month; they're all irregular. Because, for example, this month we traveled to Louisville. That's extra money. You know what I mean? So
yeah, and what's surprising to me too is before I used to just do personal budgets. I would help people get out of debt. I would do all that, and then over the past 7-8 years, I started helping businesses do things. And it surprises me sometimes when I do I do budgets, break evens, and bottom lines, which is specifically for business, and I send out it's basically a sheet. A worksheet that they have to fill out before we even meet to go over okay, I need to get an idea of your numbers. So just start collecting all this so it makes our meeting more, it makes it more beneficial. And then they start putting their personal things on the business budget. And I put rent and I've had to change it. Say business, like your shop or whether you mortgage it or it's rented or leased, whatever it is, but it has to be not your house. It's got to be it's got to be specific to your business. Like a lot of guys don't even have personal budgets, which is kind of scary because it's like, if you don't know what it costs to operate your household.
We're here at the John Deere booth and I'm supposed to interview them, and Pajak hopped on for a quick question. And now I got him in the zone. So keep going. Guys are putting their household rent on their business budget.
Yeah, they're trying to incorporate that because they don't have a personal budget.
Yeah.
And it's like, if you don't know what it costs for your household to operate, you don't know what you actually cost as the business owner.
Oh man,
on your payroll, you know, because like for some guys, they're like, oh, if I get, if I pay myself $20 an hour, it's like, dude, you're wearing more hats than $20 an hour.
Right.
Like we said before, what if you start replacing yourself? Well, this guy's going to need to make $20 and this guy's going to need to make, like, hey, we got a marketing guy in-house or something. What do we got to pay him?
Dave Ramsey talks about financial peace.
Yes.
And when your money's in order and there's something called margin, like you got more than enough for that new piece of equipment. You can just buy it and you got money left over. You got more than enough to pay your rent. You got money left over. You got more than enough to, live whatever.
Sure.
There's peace. You sleep peaceful at night when all that money is in order. So it starts with the household budget. And then from there in the business, we need it clean and organized.
Absolutely. Like I've literally had to change things everything always adapts. We always learn new things. We always realize like maybe we don't have the most perfect system and it would be beneficial to do this. And there's been quite a few guys that go through the program and then it's like, you know what? Here, I need to give you a household budget too. Like here's the template for that and figure this out, because it not only gives you peace, but your whole family and your whole household, because, many guys, they're married, they have a significant other that lives with them. When you could, especially when you're struggling, and I'm talking to the guy right now that's having a hard time just standing up. He might be slipping and falling financially because he just can't seem to get up. If you could take a step back and you could really look at what it costs you to operate your home and you get that in line, it brings peace to you and then your significant other as well. Like your wife is going to feel so much better. She's going to feel she could breathe, because a lot of times, and I've said this many times, when you have a budget, people start to freak out and they're like, you're making me do things I don't want to do. But they don't realize that budget gives them freedom to spend money. It gives them freedom of not worrying. It gives you that calmness and knowing that everything's going to be okay. Things don't always go as planned, but guess what? If you get, smacked on the side and it kind of defers you a little bit, it's really easy to course correct. As opposed to you don't have a plan at all. You get hit from the side and it sends you way, way off on a tangent. And it takes a really long time for you to come back. So start out with doing that. You make sure that you got peace in your household. And obviously I know that's, some guys are like, well, I'm solely independent. I'm the breadwinner and this is the only thing I have. It's like, I understand that. Get that straightened out first and then start working, do triage on your home budget and then move on to your business, because then you could focus just on your business, which is going to be that fuel. It's going to be the one that it's going to be the jet fuel that not only feeds your business and propels it to another level, but it's also going to take care of your household. And you really have to start looking at it from that way. Once that starts happening, it's like tumblers on a lock. You're locked out right now, right? But you start solving these problems one by one tumbler at a time, and they start falling into place. And click, there. Oh, it opened up. It's unlocked. You've got freedom, and you feel so much better. Your business is going to actually take care of you, as opposed to you taking care of your business.
Well said, John. How can people connect with you and the Profits with Pajak podcast?
We're on Profits with Pajak is on every single
podcast
platform. Thank you. I got to refine that a bit. But johnpajak.com, they can reach out to me, take, Budgets, Break Evens, and Bottom Lines course, or I even offer yard book training courses. You could reach out there.
Go ahead. We're audio only now.
Okay. johnpajak.com. You can find me there. Also on all socials, it's basically just John Pajak. So Facebook, Instagram, whatever you want, John Pajak.
So thank you very much, John. And we are also wanting to express our gratitude to John Deere for bringing us this awesome time and space to podcast here in their booth at the Equip Expo. So thank you to our friends, partners at John Deere.